Federal judge blocks Trump administration's freeze on $10 billion in child care and social service funds. January 9, 2026. A federal judge in New York on Friday temporarily barred the Biden-appointed judge from allowing the Trump administration to withhold roughly $10 billion in federal funding for child care and other social services programs in 5 Democratic-led states, a decision that marks a major legal and political confrontation over federal oversight of welfare funding. The funding in question supports critical programs such as the Child Care and Development Fund, (CCDF), which subsidizes child care for low-income families, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families (TANF) program that provides cash aid and job training, and the Social Services Block Grant (SSBG), which assists with a broad range of community services. Judge orders funds unblocked. In a brief order, U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian directed the Department of Health and Human Services (HHS) to continue releasing the funds while a lawsuit proceeds, asserting that the states had made a sufficient legal showing that halting the money would cause immediate harm. The restraining order is expected to remain in effect for at least 14 days while the court considers further arguments. Legal challenge by 5 states. New York, California, Colorado, Illinois and Minnesota filed the suit on Thursday in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, arguing that the administration's abrupt freeze, announced earlier this week, lacked legal justification and would disrupt services for vulnerable families. The state's attorneys general contended that withholding funds appropriated by Congress violates the separation of powers and threatens the well-being of hundreds of thousands of residents who depend on federal aid for child care, housing, food and other essentials. New York Attorney General Letitia James, who was leading the coalition, said the freeze would jeopardize some of the most important anti-poverty programs, and that the administration had failed to present any evidence of widespread fraud to justify its action. Administration's fraud concerns. The Trump administration, through HHS, initiated the freeze on January 5 and 6, citing concerns that the states may be granting federal benefits to individuals who are not legally present in the country and that there may be potential for extensive and systemic fraud. Officials have directed the states to provide extensive recipient data, including names and social security numbers, as part of increased oversight requirements, a move that state leaders have called unprecedented and burdensome. While the administration's fraud claims have been linked to ongoing investigative activity in Minnesota involving alleged misuse of social services funds, HHS has not publicly provided evidence showing such fraud at scale in the other states targeted. Political and practical stakes. State officials and advocates warn that the funding disruption could cause operational chaos for agencies and providers, forcing child care centers to cut services and placing additional strain on parents who rely on subsidies to work. Critics argue the freeze disproportionately targets Democratic-led states and amounts to political retribution rather than a legitimate enforcement action. The administration says its actions are aimed at ensuring fiscal integrity and accountability, but the judge's order signals that, at least for now, federal courts will scrutinize the legality and process behind such broad funding actions. As litigation continues, the future of the funding and the broader debate over federal authority over state-administered social services remains unresolved, with significant consequences for millions of families across the country.